Good evening. I would like to call the December 12th legislative meeting to order. We will start by taking the Pledge of Allegiance provided by Dr. Whiting.
Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Dr. Whiting will provide the statement of acknowledgement in honor of indigenous and diverse communities.
Thank you. We begin this meeting with acknowledgement of and honor for the many legacies that have impacted our community, particularly those buried over time. Acknowledging truth is critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. Cheltenham Township stands the Lenape-Hokink, the ancestral homeland of the Lenni Lenape civilization. Their people were, and still are, caretakers of this land and its rivers, and their legacy continues. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Our community owes its existence and vitality to the generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in the hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together, and as a school district committed to equity and social justice that fosters intellectual curiosity and discourse, join us in uncovering such truths.
Thank you, Dr. Whiting. Ms. Harding will provide the roll call.
Ms. Blitzstein.
Here.
Mr. Burdell Williams.
Present.
Mr. Epps.
Present.
Ms. Henry.
Present.
Ms. Lohman.
Present.
Ms. Mulhern.
Present.
Ms. Murphy.
Present.
Mr. Schultz.
Here.
And Dr. Whiting.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Harding. Next, we will have our Cheltenham High School Student Council report.
Should I just, oh, there we go. Okay, I'm Sham Sukar, 12th grade. Student Council has been preparing Thanksgiving baskets. We are setting up a bulletin board for our actions, but we are doing a clothing drive / thrift drive. We are engaging with the project with the challenge program at Wyncote, and we will be meeting with maintenance staff about logistics of the recycling program.
Thank you. Next, we will have sunshine announcements by Mrs. Gallagher.
Thank you. The board has not met in executive session since the last board meeting, so there is no Sunshine Act announcement this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. The approval of November 21st, 2023 minutes provided by Ms. Mulhern.
I move to approve the November 21st minutes. Second, Ms. Lemon.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The minutes are approved. Next, we will have recognitions provided by Mr. Smith from Cedarbrook Middle School.
Hello, everyone. How you all? Hello, everyone. How you all doing today? So, whenever you're ready, we can play the video that was put together by the Cedarbrook team.
My heritage is not a weight. My ancestors are my guide. My skin is not a condition. It is my greatest prize. My hair is not a burden. It holds all my pride. My people are not a hardship. They should never have to hide. No, I am not sick. For soil embeds itself within my veins, and flowers sprout into the spaces in my brain. The air that surrounds me is colored with gorgeous flames. Songs of our sky could set your soul ablaze. I am not sick. Can you see my smile? My patience is beginning to wane. Can you see our suffering? I pray you'll feel my pain. We are not your servants. What exactly do you hope to gain? Not sick, not sick. You'd set my skin ablaze for your own entertainment. You'd shackle us down with bolts for containment, as if we are animals, our honor to be taken. But if you think we'll stay down, then you are mistaken.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Give me all you got and don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Hey, go. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. I said, bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. I said, clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
Make sure I get this right this time. So what you saw was just various events that we had throughout the school year, beginning with actually our Wycliffe performance at the end of last school year, moving on to just our Wildcat Way event where you saw Aurora Wars, but also our kickoff events where we really talk about our expectations and how we want to operate in our school community. Additionally, just a lot of theme days, our Twin Day, our Dress Like Your Favorite Teacher Day, and Mr. Metcalf was kind of on me about some pictures that didn't make it of me in there. But just several things just really highlighting and illuminating the positive culture at Cedar Brook. Additionally, to our right, Mr. McShay, his 7th grade and 8th grade art classes have an assortment of photos up here. You see some depicted from the Day of the Dead, that's from our World Cultures unit, but you also see some from our Color Theory unit, including the lighthouse displays, along with the colorscapes and other things you see. And just lastly, behind us, Mr. Omar Rose, one of our STEM teachers, just does a lot of dynamic work with our children. Our 7th grade STEM program, they actually created a polygonal, listen, I apologize for the butchering of the term, project where it is actually cross-curricular with both art, music, and science all included as they created their wooden depictions of their desired animals in the back. So there's a lot of good things happening at Cedar Brook that we're proud of. We hope that you all enjoy the things that are going on currently.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Let me just say before we move on, in addition to the beautiful artwork, I needed to hear that song tonight. So thank you so much. I said Mr. Clark, Mr. Smith, I'm sorry. My apologies for that. Dr. Scriven is attending virtually, and while he is here, Mr. Kaufman will be providing an update and placement of the superintendent's report.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening to our Board of Directors. Just want to provide Mr. Kaufman, who is our Director for Communications, introduction. I do think it's important to build capacity in our staff, and so often you're used to hearing my voice, but I think it's really appropriate for Mr. Kaufman to be presenting as we are moving forward with the implementation of our strategic plan. One of the pillars is communication, and under that pillar, you will be hearing from Mr. Kaufman around the work with our branding initiative that is currently taking place within our district. This is really outstanding work, and I do not need to pontificate. I can pass the ball to Mr. Kaufman at this time, who will bring forth just an overview of the work, the present, where we currently are, and what lies ahead. Mr. Kaufman, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Board, faculty, admins, families, and students, community, good evening. My name is Kevin Kaufman. I'm the Director of Communications. I'm pleased this evening to present to you our branding initiative. I'm going to pick this up. So, defining our brand is a goal in our strategic plan, as Dr. Scriven mentioned. In fact, it is the #1 goal: develop and promote CSD's unique brand in the communications pillar. Next slide. So what is a brand? It's more than a logo. It's more than a catchphrase, more than a marketing tool. In fact, branding can drive everything that we do. Next slide, please. Branding can give us clarity of identity. It can showcase our strengths. It drives community engagement. It helps us attract talent and gives us a competitive edge. Additionally, it defines our why. It establishes our expectations, strengthens our school culture, and connects us to our community. So how do we develop the brand? We started with We started with the goal of engaging community voice to ensure the brand is true and authentic, really Cheltenham. The development was led by a committee comprised of staff, students, board members, parents/guardians, and community members. It was a very engaged group. Lots of really good work done, and we partnered with the Chester County Intermediate Unit to facilitate this process. The key steps in the process. First thing we did was issue a thought exchange survey to capture current perceptions of the CSD brand. We did this in April. So the thought exchange asked for opinions about the school district. And for every opinion that was given, people were able to vote on what resonated with them. And it really was helpful in finding out where ideas were coalescing. The committee met for the first time in May. We initiated a branding exercise focused on defining CSD's features, benefits, personality, and essence. Following that, the district sent out another survey to test initial committee outcomes and to capture additional insight for subsequent branding workshops. And then we met again twice in June to finalize the initial branding elements and to define CSD's position, promise, and key messages. That was in June. The end result is our brand book, a draft of which I hold in my hand right here. We're being finalized. We're waiting on feedback from the committee. So, all those meetings, all those surveys, what did we uncover? We defined our brand elements, first of all. The first one, our essence, which is how to encapsulate a brand in 1 to 3 words. While our diversity gives us our strength, it's our essence that defines our purpose, gives us our why. And we came up with belonging, becoming, excelling. The next brand element was the personality. We came up with these 4 personality traits. We are rooted in the belief that all are welcome and valued. We can always be counted on, never to turn our back, even in the midst of challenge. We endeavor to achieve greatness and motivate our students to follow suit. And we are deeply committed to our Cheltenham community and strive to be a model and invaluable resource. The next element we defined was our positioning. The positioning is an internal-only statement. It conveys our unique value. It basically makes us. It's what makes us stand out from other school districts and schools in the area. And our positioning statement is as follows. Cheltenham School District is the best K-12 school community for families of school-age children because it engages in a widely diverse learning community with an expansive world of opportunity to motivate individuals to grow into influential leaders, leading and inspiring one another to create a better world. The next element that we defined was our promise. Our promise is what we want audiences to know and expect from us. And our promise is to grow role models for our diverse, changing world. So from all those brand elements, we came up with CSD's overarching key messages. And these are the 4 buckets that we came up with. CSD is committed to providing high-quality academics that lay a strong foundation for students' future success. CSD seeks to help students identify passions beyond the classroom, inspiring students to develop a love of continuous learning. CSD holds true that a diverse community enriches the learning environment for all. And a strength of CSD is the community that surrounds it. So those are our branding elements, and that's our positioning statement. So what do we do with that now? Do we just post it on our website? Do we let it collect dust on a shelf? No, we actually put it into action. So once this draft of the brand book is finalized, we'll be forwarding it to our constituents and posting our brand book on the website. At that point, we'll begin integrating the brand elements and the messages into CSD communications. After that, we'll fully embed our brand with the development of a strategic communications plan that'll happen this spring and summer. I'd like to get us some staff training sometime in the spring, and we'll see how that works out. Colleagues are interested in what we're doing. Not a lot of school districts are working on branding. As such, I've been asked to give 2 presentations on this whole process. The first one is the PennSPRA Conference, the Pennsylvania School Public Relations Association. That's in March in State College, Pennsylvania. And the second one is the NSPRA Symposium, the National School Public Relations Association. That's in Seattle in July. And Melissa Smith and I from the Chester County IU have submitted a proposal, and we should find out if it's accepted within the next few weeks. So that is our branding initiative. I thank you for your time, and I'm here for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Well, I'm excited. We got to this point. It's been a long time, a lot of work, and even some of the board members and community members that are here participated in this initiative. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it evolve and come alive. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Oh, Ms. Mulhern?
Thank you, President Henry. If I could, I was one of the directors that was part of the process along with Ms. Lohman and Mr. Fishbein. And I just want to say, I mean, Mr. Kaufman did share, it was a robust discussion. And it was one of the more engaged groups that I've been in. And I've been in a lot of different committees over the years. It was a great cross-section. A lot of people I had not met before. I think that's, just faculty, staff, students, you named all of them, but it really was a very vigorous and exciting process to be a part of. So thank you. And I think the fact that, we're doing this, like you said, you've been invited to speak about it. That's a big deal. That shows that we're at the forefront of something. So that's exciting. So thank you, Mr. Kaufman.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. We will now move on to public comments on agenda items only. If there are any members present or online, you can comment on any items that are in the agenda, either by watching your hand, raising your hand if you're live streaming, or if you're watching the broadcast, you can email CSD board meeting comments@cheltenham.org. Mr. Kaufman, any hands present? No hands. No hands, okay. So we'll move on to our committee reports. Mr. Schultz will provide the financial affairs report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Financial Affairs Committee met on December 5th in the Administration Building with a hybrid option via Zoom. Following roll call and approval of minutes, our first agenda item was a review of the interim financial statements, which is an update on where we are to date in terms of our budget versus our revenues and expenditures, and everything is, as it has continued to be, on track with our projected budget. We then had a brief presentation reviewing fund balance allocations. So within the school district, the primary budget is the general fund, and that's what we often spend a lot of our time talking about because represents the majority of our revenues and expenditures. However, there are a couple of other other fund balances, which are essentially separate budgets with specific purposes. I'll just list them briefly. The Capital Reserve Fund, the Capital Projects Fund, the Food Service Fund, Self-Insurance Fund, Scholarship Fund, and Student Activity Fund. And I want to highlight the Capital Reserve and Capital Projects Fund because, as has been a discussion in the Facilities Committee, our district is undergoing a feasibility study, and those are two funds which represent monies that could be allocated to future capital projects such as renovations and constructions of new facilities. We then held a discussion about building level budgets, which was a little bit of an overview on how building level budgets are decided on and change over time. And the headline I'll summarize with is that it's based on enrollment. So as building enrollment increases and decreases, that gives a good factor for whether the number of dollars allocated to the principals for their own decisions on how to spend. That's the driving force. It is also, though, not the only force. There are opportunities for buildings to request funds for specific projects that go beyond their building level allocation. The last item on the agenda was a discussion of the Act 1 resolution, which we are considering this evening. It will be on vote during our consent agenda. For those who don't know, the Act 1 index is a number that is calculated by the state of Pennsylvania, and it represents a rough estimate of how much costs of living and wages and general expenses have increased. And so it's a sort of a pacing mechanism for school districts and functionally a cap on how much they can raise taxes without having to go to the taxpayers for permission via a referendum. The action on the agenda tonight would be to basically commit to not raising taxes next year above the Act 1 index. The Act 1 index for this budget cycle is 5.3%. So if that motion passes, that would mean that the board is committing to not raise taxes above 5.3%. But I want to clarify that wouldn't mean that the board is committing to raise taxes in any given level. It's just giving ourselves a cap. So that was the last item on our agenda, and the next meeting will be held January 2nd, following the Facilities Committee meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Ms. Mulhern will provide the Educational Affairs Committee report.
Thank you. The Educational Affairs Committee met on Tuesday, November 28th at 7 p.m. in person and via Zoom. Following roll call and the approval of the minutes, we moved into our meeting topic, which was student performance data and action plans. In addition to the central administration staff from the Office of Education, we were also joined by all 7 of our school's principals. We were also introduced to staff members in 2 new positions as data and curriculum specialists. So welcome to Rachel German for secondary education and Caitlin Ferraro for elementary education. Drs. Riley and Pimentel began the meeting with an overview on data analysis for continuous school improvement and professional learning, as well as data and goals for district schools for the 2023-2024 school year. They shared that Cheltenham School District has partnered with Dr. Victoria Bernhardt's Education for the Future initiative. EFI is a nonprofit that helps schools build capacity to use data to improve learning for all students. EFI was selected for its holistic approach to data-driven organizational decision-making. They also have Pennsylvania-specific experience. Multiple measures of data and a program evaluation tool will be used to democratize work in continuous school improvement. This is not a process that is complete. It is a year-long ongoing commitment. Much of this work is done on the every other Wednesday early dismissal professional development days. Having this time has been integral to the continuous school improvement process. Dr. Riley and Dr. Pimentel then discussed statewide performance goals in the short term for 2024 and the long term 2033 in math, ELA, and science. It was noted that there are many factors informing the design of the 2024 targets, including benchmark performance, PSSA and Keystone exam data, lingering effects of COVID-19, for example, banked data. This was a new topic or a new issue for many of us to learn about. It has to do with when students take Keystone exams and then when they're actually reported in this data. Changes to the Pennsylvania's Science, Technology, and Engineering Environmental Literacy and Sustainability Standards, or STEELS, and changes to the assessments. We then heard brief presentations from all 7 building principals that covered school-based data and plans for their respective schools. They shared their 2022-23 PSSA and Keystone data and goals for the upcoming 2024 testing. Each school has different needs and focuses, and they include scheduling changes, disaggregating data before and after school tutoring, aligning assessments, analyzing instructional practices, social emotional education, streamlining MTSS processes, utilizing professional learning communities, utilizing outside resources, Lunch and Learn, formerly known as Community Lunch at the high school, and many more. That is not an exhaustive list. Every school is not doing all of those things. This just gives a brief overview. But to learn more about what each school is doing, please refer to the presentation slide deck or the video of the meeting. There was some great conversation and questions. We heard a lot of exciting things that night. It's not that often that so many members of our central administrative team and our 7 building principals and all 9 of our school directors are in the same room. So we could have been there all night, but we were not. So thank you to everyone who was able to be there that night and help us with that conversation. We appreciate it. The next Educational Affairs Committee meeting is next Tuesday, December 19th at 7 p.m. here in the Administration Building and over Zoom. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Mulhern. Mr. Burdell Williams will provide the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry, Madam President. The Eastern Center for Arts and Technology met on November 8th, 2023 in person, just following the annual JOC Appreciation Dinner that was wonderfully prepared by the culinary arts students at Eastern. It's one of the awesome benefits of Eastern that we have that opportunity once a year. Grateful for that, and also for the efforts of the students. There were a number of Cheltenham students involved as well. Certainly love that experience. First, which is always at the top of the Eastern agenda, is the approval of the November Student of the Month. There are 10 Students of the Month every year, and that award is given to students who, excel in both the classroom and also in service. The November student who was recognized as Student of the Month was Jacob Richards, an Upper Moreland senior, who is in Eastern's Welding Technology program. Just some words from his teacher, Ms. Caccino. Jacob is a dedicated and hard-working student. He has been interested in Eastern since he was in 10th grade. And has been there for 2 years, and plans to go right into the welding industry and eventually build his own house. He is driven and focused and always willing to help out a classmate or assist with a school fundraiser or wherever he can around Eastern, again, reflecting on the service aspect of the Student of the Month role. Again, after graduation, Jacob plans to begin his career as a welder, and wishing him the best of luck. There were a number of items under financial and facility, as well as academic, as well as personnel that were approved. Some highlights. First, there is a new hire, very exciting. This is our second robotics and automated technology instructor, Kyle Jacoby. Just for the information of the public and everyone listening, the Robotics and Automated Technology program is one of Eastern's newest programs. The instructor who was in that role previously was the person who brought and developed the majority of the program, so that was feeling like it was going to be a really large gap to fill, but Eastern, found an awesome replacement, and I was very excited about that. So they started on November 13th, and again, wish them the best of luck. Another highlights, which I think are really cool for the experience at Eastern, are the awesome donations that make some of the programs work. This one stood out to me. It was a 2002 Mazda Protege, like it's an actual entire car. So just about every year, there's at least one vehicle that's donated. And again, just a significant amount of experience that is gained by the students by being able to work in that real world environment and experience what a 2002 vehicle was like, right? Lastly, the budget was approved for the 24-25 school year. So that budget was then presented to this board at our November meeting and approved. Just some highlights there. Our capital assessment is higher this year, as well as our actual commitment as a school district for two reasons. Capital assessment is based on property value. The property value in the 9 sending districts at Eastern did increase. We share that as our portion of Eastern's budget, so we did see an increase in our capital assessment there. And in addition to that, we do have 7 more students who are attending Eastern from CHS, which then directly correlates to an increase in our budgetary responsibilities to Eastern. Last item is that we did have an opportunity to reflect on the distinguished service of Dr. Art Levinowitz, who was the president of the Joint Operating Committee and also an Upper Dublin School Board member. Dr. Levinowitz decided that he wasn't going to run. That was very surprising to everyone. However, we did have an opportunity to thank him for his 20 years of service at Eastern as on the JOC, and the last 16 as the president. He was responsible for a lot of the evolution of Eastern. Our current director, he was on the committee that brought that a very talented director to the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology, and very excited for his contribution. And we also reflected on the contributions of Mr. Daniel Kay and Dr. Carol Etlin from Abington and Springfield, respectively, who also finished their terms on their school boards and at Eastern. The next meeting of the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology is tomorrow, December 13th at 8 p.m. in person at Eastern's facility on Turwood Road in Upper Moreland. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Ms. Loman will provide the MCIU report.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The MCIU board has not met since our district's last legislative meeting on November 21st, 2023. The next MCIU board meeting will be held in person and over Zoom at 2 West Lafayette Street in Norristown, the MCIU's main offices, on Wednesday, January 24th, 2024 at 6:45 p.m. This ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Loman. Mr. Epps will provide the liaison group reports. I'm sorry, facilities, Mr. Burdell Williams.
Yeah, I'm back again, yes. No, that's fine. So the December Facilities Committee meeting was held in a hybrid format on Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. At the meeting, Mr. Holman shared updates regarding ongoing and completed projects across the district. Key topics discussed at the meeting include at the high school that the facilities department has been working to obtain quotes for the replacement of a currently out of service domestic boiler, hot water boiler with a more sustainable unit that utilizes less natural gas. From a district-wide perspective, the focus on creating a more sustainable CSD is progressing. The district is engaging with revision architecture and sustainability consulting practice. The purpose of the engagement is to revision and restore the balance between natural, built, and social environments to improve the district's sustainability posture. Further across the district, Mr. Holman shared a number of updates, including working with Portable Container Services and CBOX to remove all shipping containers that were placed at the elementary schools and stored furniture during our COVID times when we needed to make space to distance ourselves. Those containers have mostly been emptied, and the CBOX is being relocated, some of them to CHS to support future projects. Additionally, speaking of the high school, the fields are scheduled for overseeding and maintenance to improve the playing surface. It is acknowledged that process takes time and that in the environment that we live in, we don't grow grass in the winter, so it's going to take some time. But the district is committed to improving that playing surface for our athletes. Additionally, Mr. Holman shared information around some pest control services that were increased at the high school to address some growing pest reporting, as well as informed us that the removal of some specific rubbish containers from a company that I'm struggling with the name right now, but it looks like a B2B, have been removed from all district properties as that company is out of business. The full presentation from the November Facilities Committee meeting can be found on the district's website at cheltenham.com/presentations. Next month's meeting will be held in a hybrid format. It will be our first committee meeting of 2024 on Tuesday, January 2nd at 7 p.m. following the agenda build. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Now we have the liaison group report from Mr. Epps.
Thank you. Quoting or paraphrasing a quote Mr. Taylor frequently says, who's in the room, we have nothing to say thanks. So I'm going to say thanks to Mr. Cohen, David Cohen, who probably gave this report over at least the last 4 to 6 years. For the last eight years or so. So thank you for his service again to this board and the liaison group. For now, Mrs. Mulhern and I will carry the baton. We'll see what happens. But we have not met since the last legislative meeting, and our next meeting will be in 2024 at a time to be determined.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. Legislative, Mr. Epps.
Policy, but that one would be quick too. Right. No, it's good. I do have some hot news, right? Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, it's Mr. Epps. Policy committee. We also have not met with the new bi-monthly schedule. We will meet again on January 30th of 2024. There are some policies on the agenda for first read, about 6 tonight. However, we will meet again next year and I will report them.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. And you're up again. I'm not even going to say what you're up for.
I wasn't sure I had to be officially recognized, or should I just keep going? So this report will be as a member of the Montgomery County School Board Legislative Committee. We meet periodically to discuss proposed and adopted legislation and issues requiring advocacy with our elected officials. And so during each legislative board meeting, I share legislative updates on topics that impact public education. The committee will convene next on February 15th, 2024. It pains me a little bit to keep saying 2024, but via Zoom. At the last meeting, which was just December 6th, Representative Greg Scott, who represents the 54th District, which is right here in Montgomery County, Norristown and Conshohocken areas. He was a guest speaker for the meeting, and so he shared his thoughts with the group regarding the need to reimagine the educational system, including things such as universal pre-K and what does equitable opportunities for all really mean. He spoke about building leadership and how the importance of building leadership and having systems that provide principals with enough autonomy to do their work. And so the group shared back with Representative Scott some of the barriers to autonomy, like mandates and other things that he was pretty receptive and committed to continuing the conversation to learn more about. And so there's a lot of attention right now on House Bill 1422, something we've discussed in the Legislative Committee over the last year. We most recently heard about the potential and positive financial impact from our own business manager, Mr. Swigert, at a financial affairs meeting. And so this bill, 1422, represents really comprehensive reform for cyber charter schools, ranging from the way that they advertise to rules on who can be on their board, their governing boards. And so the most popular provision of the bill is the creation of a statewide tuition rate for non-special education cyber charter students of $8,000. And just as importantly, it bases special education tuition rates on a tiered funding system that school districts have to abide by already. And so currently, cyber charter schools can charge districts rates that are unclear, and in some cases, more than $15,000 more for the same services that it costs for a student if they were in the district setting. And so reforming the tuition rate would save Cheltenham about $1.9 million every year. That, again, talk about reimagining. We should certainly reimagine some things with some added resources. And so this bill did pass the House of Representatives, in part thanks to State Representative Napoleon Nelson's support. And currently, the bill needs to pass the Senate and receive signature from the governor to become law. And so I encourage anybody within listening distance, if you live in Cheltenham, if you live in Pennsylvania, specifically if you live in Cheltenham, please do reach out to your state senator. Ours is Art Haywood. And emphasize that as a district, we've talked about our support for paying fairly for cyber education. Which comes at a lower cost than education in a traditional school setting. And so data shows that school districts have been overpaying, not just Cheltenham, but school districts throughout the entire Commonwealth have been overpaying for cyber charter school education for decades, and this is an attempt to reform that system. And so again, Senator Art Haywood and the rest of the senators are considering that really now and as their session ends. And so a couple other quick hits or a couple other things that are helpful to know. The Montgomery County Superintendent's Legislative Committee, which our own Dr. Scriven participates, plans for advocacy this spring, including an opportunity for superintendents to visit the Capitol on a non-Day on the Hill day. So added opportunities for advocacy. That's certainly something we can internally plan more around. And also the 2024 Legislative Breakfast, which is held every year as an opportunity to have face-to-face, formal, also informal opportunities to learn more about the people behind some of the roles on both sides, from the state legislators, but also school board members. And a really good day to learn about what's happening and potential to work together. And so that's slated right now for April 26, 2024. Some more information will be coming very soon, and I'm sure you'll be hearing about it from various avenues on our board. That concludes the legislative report for tonight. I'll yield my time.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. We will now move on to the consent item of our agenda. And so can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Zachary Epps.
Are there any comments before we go on and take the vote? Mr. Schultz?
I just wanted to highlight for anyone who's tuning in now, the approval of accelerated budget opt-out resolution certifying tax rate within inflation index is not an approval of a tax, but rather an approval of a limitation that we are imposing on ourselves to be within the Act 1 index in June when we actually go through the budget process. And please, if you're interested in the budget process, It is starting right now with essentially with this act. So come to our Financial Affairs Committee meetings.
Mr. Burdell Williams?
Very brief, but did want to, again, looking forward to the vote here, but I also want to just reflect on the number of volunteers that are continuing to show up on our agenda for approval. I think in November, there was almost an entire page of names. So again, following the pandemic and the limited opportunities that we had then, greatly appreciative, and I know that our students are also appreciative, and our educators as well, for all of the engagement and involvement from the volunteers. And just want to again share some gratitude as one board member for going through the process to become a volunteer, because it is a process. But again, thank you for doing that in support of the educational experience for our children. Thank you.
Ms. Plastine?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to piggyback on what you just said, Mr. Burdell Williams, and that is I'm really excited to see all these volunteers on the list. And if this is to anybody who's watching who may have a student planning on attending a field trip at any point in the spring that they might want to chaperone, I encourage you to start that process as soon as possible, because we want to make sure our kids can go. And it's an exciting experience to get to have. So don't wait until the last minute.
Any other comments? All right, we'll move on to the vote. You sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, and so the motion carries. We will move to public comments on non-agenda items. If there are any members of the public that have a comment, if you have access to Zoom, you can raise your hand. If you are watching streaming or otherwise, you can email csdboardmeetingcomments@cheltenham.org. No hands raised. All right. We had one response to a prior public question, as listed on the agenda. Mr. and Mrs. I'm not going to pronounce that right. Ahsoka raised a concern regarding the gifted education process. Doctors Cantrabone and Dr. Smith telephoned the family and discussed their concerns. The deliverables to the family included resharing gifted education presentations that outline the process, and to ensure that the gifted education presentations are more forward-facing and accessible on our district website. And that concluded any public questions. Future meetings are as listed on the agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Zachary Epps.
Second, Charles Burdell Williams.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I didn't think so. The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned.